All right, so who here knows somebody with diabetes? Oh yeah, y'all look around. See all those hands up? You can see from this map, the diabetes is one of the most prevalent chronic illnesses in the entire world. About 900 million people have diabetes. 5% of them have type 1, and that's what we're going to talk about today. When I was growing up, I knew someone with type 1 diabetes too. I'm the little girl with the star. The arrows pointing to my oldest sister, Beth, who was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at the age of 2 in the early 80s. All I knew then about diabetes was that you couldn't eat the good cereal with the sugar and the marshmallows, never had it in our house, and that she got in trouble for leaving rubbing alcohol out all the time. Fast forward to when I'm 37 years old, and I'm starting to find out that I might be someone with type 1 diabetes. I have all these symptoms. I couldn't see. I was losing weight. I was so thirsty. It was the heat of the summer at the end of August, and I was writing all those symptoms off like a lot of women did. So I'm going to get real personal and tell you I went to the doctor for a yeast infection, my first one ever. And that doctor said, yeah, boy, you got a yeast infection. You know what else they did? They took this test and they didn't look at the results. But I got the results 3 days later and showed I was basically peeing sugar. And I had ketones all in my blood. Ketones are a byproduct. When your body can't go into the blood and get glucose out of it from what you've eaten, it starts eating your muscle and your fat. That byproduct is ketones, and it's actually acid. It turns your blood into acid, and unchecked, it can develop in diabetic ketoacidosis, or DKA. I was really lucky that I got to an urgent care with a great doctor who knew what he was doing. Then I got to a hospital. I wasn't in DKA, but I did get diagnosed with type 1 diabetes in September of 2024. I got this book here, First Book of Understanding Diabetes, the 15th edition of the same book my sister got in 1984. When you leave the hospital with type 1 diabetes, it is roosh. You're checking your blood all the time, pricking your fingers. You're monitoring what it is at any given moment, tracking how many carbs you're consuming, and you're giving yourself shots. You need long-acting insulin, short-acting insulin. I was on the phone with my sister about 8 to 10 times a day. You can ask my husband. It was constant. Type 1 diabetes in a nutshell is when your body attacks itself. It's an autoimmune disease. It kills the cells in your pancreas that produce insulin, and insulin is the hormone that is absolutely, completely, 100% responsible for getting sugar out of your blood and giving it to your cells. When you have type 1 diabetes, you experience a lot of symptoms like this if you are not actively getting insulin shots or a pump, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. It can happen at any age. And something that I want everybody to know is that at 37, it wasn't rare for me to be diagnosed. When I did get that diagnosis on September 6th, I stumbled upon this quote in those next 3 weeks. I will never have this version of me again. Let me slow down and be with her. Because I had to know to show myself grace with a chronic illness that feels like a life sentence. 3 weeks from the day I got out of the hospital, Hurricane Helene hit. And this little baby, this praying mantis that symbolizes resolve and patience, made its way through Helene, just clinging on to this dilapidated outdoor fridge that we inherited in our garage when we bought our house. That fridge meant a lot. It was connected to an extension cord that was connected to an extension cord that was connected to a generator at a neighbor's house around the block. Because you all might know, insulin needs to stay cold. It can stay at room temperature for about a month, but it becomes less and less effective, and it's harder and harder to control your diabetes. Luckily, 8 weeks after the storm, I got an insulin pump, which is awesome. This is an artificial pancreas. This is one of the most incredible medical inventions, I would say, of the past 50 years. It gives me insulin all the time. I have to change out a site on my stomach every 3 to 5 days, and when I eat food, I program it to give me a little bit more insulin, but it keeps me alive. I also use something called a CGM. If you ever see people with those little button-looking things on their arms, mine's right here. A continuous glucose monitor is actually stuck in your arm every 10 days. You switch them out, measures the interstitial fluid, and tracks your blood sugar at all times. Type 1 diabetes is about survival. On any given day, I'm taking all this stuff with me. It's in my bag at all times. Right now, if I tried to leave this facility and walk even 10 minutes, I could go into a hypoglycemic episode and pass out. So I've always got gummies with me and glucose and gel, everything you can think of. I was really fortunate and honored in my life to be able to care for two very important women. My mother, who's in the wheelchair, her name's Maria. She passed in 2017. And then my abuela, who is still with us, thank God. And I got to care for her when she had cancer. Being a caregiver taught me that vigilance, kindness, and love are all the things I need to show to myself as well as to other people. Diabetes is on the rise. We all know that, but type 1 is too. Viral triggers are oftentimes the thing that cause the pancreas to kill the cells that make insulin. COVID-19 has resulted in a lot of increased cases of type 1 diabetes. I'm going to take some of this. And we all know this message if you leave with one thing. Healthcare access matters. Money matters. Institutional knowledge of how our healthcare systems work matter. And that's the only reason I'm still standing here today. One of the best things I've gotten to do as a type 1 diabetic is volunteer diabetes camp. Yes, Camp Kudos in Charlotte, North Carolina. That's the lazy pancreas in the middle. And all the students took turns, all the kids at camp took turns holding it. That's my oldest sister, Beth, who volunteers at camp with me. She's the one who taught me about it. And all these kids with type 1 diabetes get to be with each other, sharing their own lived experience in community with one another. I'm so grateful to my sister, to my husband, and my whole family that's helped care for me after I got to be a caregiver. Thanks so much.